Hey everyone, so whilst I was looking through the wiki and reading different old descriptions and stuff, I read a perk and checked for patch notes only to find nothing. It got me thinking about all of the perks in the game that hadn't been changed. Today I wanted to look over and discuss the oldest perks that have been unchanged, some of them remaining as they are for now over 7 years. Today I wanted to take a look at the 10 oldest ones I could find and discuss the possible reasons why or how they have been unchanged for so long. To start off, let's look at the oldest perks, which are unchanged for over 7 years now. This is both Whispers and Resilience. Let's look at Whispers first. Whispers is a highly unique tracking perk that relays information by highlighting the perk logo and giving you a sound cue. When a survivor is within 32 meters of your location, you'll hear whispers from the entity. It's quite an interesting perk in the way it functions, as no other tracking perk really works like this. Most current day tracking perks are aura based, and I believe this is the only one that works on sound in this fashion. Why Whispers has remained unchanged for so long, I don't think this is much of a mystery, largely because of this uniqueness. It fulfills a unique role as a tracking perk, and does so effectively. It provides you with good information, which is if a survivor is close by, typically in terror radius range. However, it doesn't give you direction or exact location, making it by no means overpowered, or strong at all. This is a perk favoured by a small number of people, but the people I have seen use it usually get pretty solid value out of it. I do think the perk is a product of its time, where back then there was highly limited available options for tracking perks, which is why Spies was once considered the best. With that said, it's not useless nowadays. Resilience is another perk that has been unchanged for 7 years, but this one doesn't surprise me at all really. It's a buff to pretty much all action speeds by 9%, and does so when injured, and has consistently been a good perk throughout the past 7 years. Resilience is very rarely the problem, but instead accentuates other perks' problematic nature. Nowadays, for example, with Made for This, 9% extra vault speed is helpful sure, but is a lot more powerful when you are 3% faster too. Back with old Spine Chill, it made for a great vault speed build too, yet it's never been the center of the problem, which is why I think it's pretty much never been touched, despite all of its pairings falling around it. A 9% boost to actions when injured is hardly overpowered, but undeniably is strong, cutting down just about any action. Up the Ante is next up, and a perk that has remained the way it has, not because it's okay, but instead because the mechanic it's tied to is incredibly niche, and also has not been touched since its release. Up the Ante provides you with up to 9% extra luck within the trial, so long as your teammates are all alive. This number falls by a token, or 3% each time a teammate is lost. This perk has one usage, and that's for self-unhooks. If you didn't know, that's all that luck currently affects. It has debatably a singular worthwhile usage, which is pairing it with Slippery Meat and going for self-unhooks. The other luck-based perk, Deliverance, provides a guarantee to unhook yourself, making it a useless pairing with Up the Ante. This perk is dreadful. It has remained this way however because of it being tied to luck, and luck also not being altered, aside it being nerfed, where it used to also affect bear trap odds and such. Therefore, before Up the Ante gets altered, luck needs to be addressed, and there's no sign of that happening anytime soon. Since it's been over 6 years, it doesn't seem like this perk may be changed ever. Next up, we're jumping quite a bit forward to October 2017 and the release of Freddy. Blood Warden is a perk that has never been changed, and this is mainly down to it being so unique, I imagine. This perk will block the exit gates for 60 seconds whenever a survivor is hooked after a gate has been opened. It's a perk that fulfills a unique role, but it's one that does it pretty perfectly. Despite its lack of appearance too, it's often the reason for people leaving trials early, or refusing to open gates, in case the killer has Blood Warden. It has a silent presence on many games despite it never being present. I like it for that personally, as a perk that causes fear despite how rarely it's used. It's also a very rewarding perk when it works. It usually secures at least one endgame kill, and pretty much everyone involved is like, oh damn. That's my assessment there. Next we have 2 perks from the Curtain Call chapter, released on the year 2 anniversary in June 2018. Bamboozle is a perk of the Clown, and will block window vaults for a duration of 16 seconds after vaulting them. The perk also grants an additional 15% boost to vaulting speeds. This is a case purely of a well-balanced perk, I think. It provides a useful ability, paired with some nice extra vault speed, but doesn't completely break the game by capping the maximum time frame at 16 seconds and number of blocks to just 1 at any given time. I have no personal desire to see this perk buffed or nerfed. It seems like it's just in a genuinely good spot as is. Much like a perk like Resilience, it can often be paired with other things to make it overpowered, but it's never that powerful alone, but instead solidly strong. Dance With Me is the other perk from this chapter. This perk makes it so every 40 seconds you're able to do a rushed action, and upon doing so you'll leave no scratch marks for 3 seconds. It's primarily a chase deception perk, particularly effective with perks like Lithe and Quick and Quiet, and on indoor maps. It can also be good when paired with Head On. This is a perk similar to Bamboozle that is not even close to being problematic alone, or even when paired, to be honest. However, unlike Bamboozle, it is definitely on the weaker side of things. For one, I do think this perk could benefit from a slightly shorter cooldown, possibly 20 to 30 seconds instead of the current 40, making it a little more viable to be used a few times in chase. That's just my opinion on that though, it's really pretty okay as is. Hex Haunted Ground released with Spirit in September of 2018, and has never been changed. This perk gives the effect of setting 2 trapped Hex totems. When either is broken, all survivors are inflicted with the exposed status for 60 seconds, and that's all it does. My thoughts on the lack of changes here is simple. They pretty much nailed the concept right away. The only reasonable change I would suggest for it would be something like an extension to the exposed timer. It's a perk currently that'll provide you significant value on some occasions and do absolutely nothing on others. It works pretty well as a hex trap for those reasons. It's a high risk, high reward. Maybe you wipe the team, maybe you get literally no value at all. It's how hexes go. It's also not just a perk used for getting downs, but it's also a perk that helps with slowdown, with it often scaring survivors. It can also be used as somewhat of a passive repellent towards cleansing totems. If a team sees no visible hex effects right away, they'll assume it's haunted, meaning it can often pair well with things like Hex Devour Hope. Autodidact is another perk that has never been changed. This perk works on altruistic healing. When you start off, you have no stacks. Each stack gives you a 15% boost to the effectiveness of your skill check. Your skill check begins, however, in the negative at minus 25%. This moves to minus 10% when hitting 1 stack, then to plus 5% at 2, plus 20% at 3, plus 35% at 4, and plus 50% at 5. The primary issue with this perk is that it relies a lot on luck, and in many games you'll only ever be in the negative part of the skill checks unless you go out of your way to heal. It does have the potential for a lot of value, but it requires a lot of effort typically on your part to reach that value, with it often simply being a detriment to yourself and the team. It's a dice roll really, but you can definitely be effective in some cases. This perk has debatably one of the coolest survivor perk mechanics in the game in my opinion, and would benefit a lot from a simple adjustment to the frequency of its skill checks, even if it was just a boost to skill checks early on, so you could move past the negative part easier and have the potential to gain some value. This perk isn't necessarily bad, and it's not necessarily problematic either, but it is definitely in an awkward spot. If you buff it, it may become kind of broken, but it has no need currently for a nerf or something, but equally doesn't feel powerful, leaving it as just confusing. Deliverance is another perk from Adam, and also unchanged. I don't have much to say about this perk however, I think it's fine as is. Strong effect but limited by the initial need to save, and the potential to be saved by other means. Moving on now, and finally to the demise of the Faithful chapter, we have 2 perks from Jone. Solidarity first off is a perk that can allow you to heal both yourself and a teammate at the same time. A rather novel idea. When not using a medkit, Anyone you heal, you will transfer 50% of the healing you do onto them, also onto yourself. For example, if you heal someone for a full health state whilst being injured, you'll come out of it half healed. This perk mainly suffers from being situationally useful. Often healing whilst also being injured actually doesn't happen that often. When it does, it's often when you're doing resets and are able to take advantage of multiple people healing, and so you don't need it that much then. This perk also suffers from simply having better alternatives. For example, why not just run Will Make It? A perk that provides twice as fast healing speeds, and will have usage no matter your health state, particularly with Solidarity's requirement to do it without a medkit. Healing takes 16 seconds, and so with Solidarity you're removing 8 seconds when doing a full heal, which is the same time gain as Will Make It. So because Will Make It is not just useful situationally, there's no reason to pick something like Solidarity instead. It's a cool perk idea, but it's a case where other stuff is just better. I honestly think this perk could benefit from having a much higher conversion rate, or even a healing speed bonus to try and make it more competitive with other healing perks that function to save nearly the same time, but just far more conveniently. Something like a 75% conversion rate, or the same 50% rate, but with a 25% healing bonus or something. I think it could be a lot more viable and worthy as a pick over, again, something like Will Make It. Poised is our final perk today, and one that removes your scratch marks for 10 seconds after a generator is completed. This is actually not bad, but it's certainly not good. It's better nowadays with you being able to see generator progress, but definitely not directly useful due to generators still popping at fairly random times during a match. The main benefit this has is when a generator pops in chase, and you're able to break line of sight, or being able to move to a new area after popping a gen yourself, making it harder for a killer to track your next moves. These two are actually fairly rare instances though, with killers much of the time just tracking with visuals or sound. This perk often pulls the short straw and just ends up a bit useless. Honestly, I'd like to see an alternative where you become ultra stealthy upon activation. No scratch marks, no injured sounds, and a hidden aura or something. Just a full stealth mode for those 10 seconds. I really don't think it would be powerful still, but it would for sure buff it in the current role it fills. There's a bunch more perks worth covering. For example, all 3 of Ghostface's perks have never been touched. Let me know if you'd like me to discuss some more of these. Also, if there's anything you want to add to what I said, or changes you think could be done to these perks, let me know down below. Thanks, and goodbye.